What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. Week 2 of the Six Nations is over, and what a fantastic weekend of rugby it was. Some really big results, especially for this competition now, really beginning to change how I thought it was going to be going. But of course, that means we need to do a Team of the Week for the second round. Now, for anyone who hasn't seen the Team of the Week on this channel before, I will chuck the rules on screen for you guys right now, just that you can see why Team of the Week is the way it is on my channel, just to make it a bit different from everyone else's channel and not everyone just picking the exact same players every week. I make it a little bit different. I'll run through it in a very quick nutshell. What we do, of course, is while watching the games live, I pick out players that stand out to me. It could be for any reason. It's got nothing to do with their position doing what we expect their position to do. It's not to do with a winger scoring tries. It could be a winger being really good in defence. There's a whole manner of things. It's people that stand out to me personally. I then have a list of players that I've watched live. I'm not allowed to look at the stats after the match, find out who was technically the best. I'm just allowed to create a team from those 15. So, of course, like I say every week, this is an incredibly personal Team of the Week. This will be nowhere near what your guys' Team of the Week would be. So make sure you do drop down in the comments what your Team of the Week was. Who is your 1 to 15? And that way we each get to see each other's Team of the Week. And that way they're all a little bit different. And then, of course, after we've done the Team of the Week, we need to check out the fantasy leagues that we have going on Super Brew, because there are some big results from this week. Let's start off in this front row, starting off in the loose head position. I had 3 names written down for this one. I thought Andrew Porter had a really good game for Ireland. Thought he's put in a really good, decent amount of work. The only thing for me was maybe whether his scrummaging was going to hold up. The other name I had down was Cyril Bay. I thought he had another really good game for France. He's certainly beginning to take over that number 1 shirt now for France. Thought he played very, very well in that game. But for me, I've gone for Schoeman. From Scotland, who I thought had an incredibly impressive game. Had a very, very good first half. Didn't really put a foot wrong. Was playing really, really well. Went off just after in that second half. Played for about 6 minutes. He was just sat on the side doing his little bike exercises. And then all of a sudden had to come back on to replace another injury. And then had to play the rest of the game. Played, nearly a full match of that game. Really good tackling throughout the game, really good running, making a lot of very good breaks, managing to get through the tackles and stuff. Very, very impressive. So for me, in that loose head position, I've gone for Schoeman. In the hooker position, again, another 3 names. Ryan Elias's throwing has improved greatly, which is, I don't know if that's not necessarily a compliment. It could exactly get worse, but definitely had a better game than I saw from him last week. I wrote down his name. Sheehan came on for Ireland. Thought he had a really good game, actually. Again, not a name we get to see a lot of. Had to come on again for an injury very early in that first half. Had to play pretty much a full game himself. Played a good 60, 70 minutes of that game. Thought he was very good for a good majority of the game. Again, good running lines. Thought he playing really well. But the player I've gone for over everyone else is going to go to Jamie George. There was a lot of talk about whether him over Cowan Dickey was the right move at hooker. Came in, got himself 2 tries, which was nice to see. Really good positioning. Saw that one that he got on the wing, managing to beat defenders, got some speed, had good ball carrying. Again, tackle rate was really, really good. And that England scrum, very, very solid against an Italian scrum that's slowly getting better and better. So for me, in that hooker position, I've gone for Jamie George. In the tight head shirt, I got 2 names written down, both from Wales. Surprisingly, I didn't really think tight heads really stood out to me a lot this week. This week, it was an incredibly difficult week for picking specific players because it felt incredibly team against team. It was really hard to find specific players in different positions. So tight head is between Dylan Lewis and Tom Francis for me. I've highlighted Tom Francis. I think overall he probably had a generally better game, but I did think Dylan Lewis made a really nice impact from the bench. He certainly came on, had a very good game. We're just playing that sort of half hour in comparison to the 50 minutes of Tom Francis, and I don't really think Tom Francis put a foot wrong. I didn't see any of the scrums going wrong on his side. I thought, again, good running play, good tackle rate from him. So for me, I've gone for Tom Francis. On to the lock department. I got 1 name for the number 4 shirt. I find 4s very, very lax this year. I've gone for Tyg Byrne. People are going to start just believing this is just favouritism. I'm going to keep picking Tyg Byrne every week, but he's certainly very, very good in that 4 position. Of course, we saw a couple of people move around. Itoje moved to flanker this week, so it didn't count as a 4. I didn't think a lot of the England locks played necessarily that well. I was sort of having a look through the list afterwards just to make sure that I hadn't just forgotten to write someone's name down. I thought Will Rowlands gave away a lot of penalties for me. I wasn't super impressed. 4s across the board, not really jumping out to me, but the one that did, again, was Tyg Byrne. Just another good, solid game from him. So for me, I've just gone for Tyg Byrne there. Joining in that lock position, I had 2 names written down for the 5 shirt. Now, People might get a bit annoyed by this one, but so the first name that I had written down was Valemsa. I thought he had a very good game for France. I thought that line out would work much better for them. Again, good running play. Trying to fight his way over that try line like anything. Thought he had a really good game. But as someone that is just standing out to me week on week, and this is, I think, maybe the first time ever on the channel, back-to-back weeks, Team of the Week, I've gone for Ruzza again. I thought, again, he was brilliant. I know that Italian team had such a difficult game against England, but one of the real shining lights in that team was Ruzza. Fantastic running play, really good in the line-out. That Italian line-out working so much better with him in, getting his hands on the ball to disrupt the England line-out where he could. It's just very difficult against people like Itoje in the line-out. But the running play so many times, the ball in one hand, offloading over the top, under, breaking through lines. I think he's doing absolutely brilliantly. So for the second week on the bounce, for me, in that 5 shirt, goes to Ruzza. The 6 shirt had a bit more competition for me. I thought Keelan Doris had a good game. I thought Jalanche also had a good game. I can imagine a couple of people going for pretty much either of them in that 6 shirt. But for me, I've gone for Itoje. I thought he had a really pretty sound game. Not a lot of penalties given away from him, which is always my biggest negative for Itoje, just his penalties given away. He seems to have really learnt over this last year. Now he's really got into his own game. Moving from 4 to 6, not an easy move for him to do. Thought he did very well. Lineouts were solid. Running play was solid. Very unlucky not to have scored a try in that game. Really thought he did well to get over that white line. So for me, I've gone for Itoje. In the other flanker position then, I've got another 2 names written down here. Tame Basham, I thought had another good game for Wales. He's certainly one of the the sort of standout players for Wales so far in the Six Nations. That first round certainly wasn't very good for them anyway. But for me, I've gone for Hamish Watson in the 7 shirt. Thought he had a good running game, making his way through an awful lot of tackles. Did see the tackle rate from him again. It's just insane. We do see it every week from Hamish Watson, to be fair. His tackle rate is huge. Played really, really well. As well as distributing. Not a lot of people talk about Hamish Watson's ability to distribute when he's got the ball in hand. He actually sort of links in as almost like another fly half every now and again. I just thought it was very good. Very impressive game for me. So for me, at number 7, I've gone for Hamish Watson. In the number 8 shirt, again, another 2 names for me here. One was going to be Alex Dornbrandt at one point. I thought he had a very good game. Again, not someone I've seen a lot from in international rugby, but really making a big impact on that Italy game. Single-handedly making a good number of metres, breaking through a lot of tackles, being a real danger man with the ball in hand. But for me, the one that I eventually settled on was Gregory Aldrit, which I can imagine a lot of people would have gone for. I thought he had an outstanding game against Ireland. Again, there was a couple of penalties here and there, but his overall contribution to the game, just single-handedly running with the ball, breakdown situations, just being a nuisance. Every single ruck there was, you saw Ireland having to commit so many extra men just to be able to deal with Gregory Aldrit being over the top. He doesn't go into a ruck, not expecting to get a jackal, which I really, really like. So for me, in that number 8 shirt goes to Gregory Aldrit. On to the backs then, and in that scrum half position, I mean, it's one name. It's going to be one name that everyone's going to have. It is, of course, going to be Dupont. Again, another awesome game. You see why he gets that player of the year. He's so good. He's such a good player. That early try really just beginning to light them up in that France-Ireland game. We saw it starting. You worried that it was going to be a bit of a cascading waterfall. Also set up for the second try in the game for them. Also nearly involved with that Jaminet try that got disallowed. I think Dupont is absolutely exceptional. I think he's having a really good tournament again this year. I did have Gibson Park also written down here alongside, but for me the box kicking was pretty poor from Gibson Park, which is why I knocked him down a few pegs there. So for me in the scrum half goes to Dupont. In the fly half shirt then, 3 names written down and eventually left me with 1 at the end of every one of those games. The second halves go wrong for them. Starting off, I did put Finn Russell down. I thought Finn Russell was doing well for Scotland in that game. And then that second half of Finn Russell just began to fall away, then giving away that stupid penalty that allowed him to have a yellow card. Real big negative for me on his side there, so it's not going to go to Finn Russell. The other name I had written down was Marcus Smith. Who it's very hard when you're watching a game with the amount of commentary that surrounds Marcus Smith for everyone not to believe Marcus Smith is unbelievable. He played a very good first half. It's probably one of the best performances I've seen in terms of fly half in that first half. I thought he did really well against that Italy team. But in that second half, it really began to fall apart for Marcus Smith. And I actually think he's exposed a bit of a big weakness in the fact that he's not necessarily stroppy, but he gets inside his own head very easily. And I think a lot of teams will now be looking at that game as as long as you can put huge pressure on Marcus Smith, his game will begin to fall apart. So for me, the name I've gone for here is Dan Biggar, who I thought, again, ran the team very well. The first game last week was very difficult for him as captain. Ireland is a tough team to go up against. But this week, I thought Dan Biggar had a very good game. The kicking percentage was incredibly good from him. The organisation of the Wales attack, just managing to hold out the organisation. The defence was so key in that Wales-Scotland game. But also for just holding on. I mean, he played nearly an entire game with an injury. An injury picked up in like the first 20 minutes of the game. You saw him limping. You saw him having to keep getting ice packs on his knees and stuff just to keep himself going. Thought he played really well, showed a lot of heart, and for me, that's why I've gone for Dan Biggar. On to the left wing then, and two names written down here. One was Mac Hansen. I thought he was absolutely superb. His name went down, of course, as soon as you saw that try from the kickoff. Very nice from him. But overall, I thought he had quite a good game as well. But for me, the name I have to go for here, I think for the second week on the bounce as well, is going to go to Villiers, who had another standout week. He's really beginning to put himself now in this Union shirt, coming over from Sevens just a couple of years ago, really beginning just to dominate that left wing now. The defensive rate from his brilliant breakdown situations. He's so short for a guy, but he gets involved. He's so strong, gets over, gets those turnovers, gets those penalties in the breakdowns, also just bashing through players when he's on the run as well. Great sidestep. Again, another superb week for me, so I've gone for Villiers. On the inside centre then, two names, one of which I think is what everyone will go for, and I'm going to go completely the other way. So the first name I had written down here was Bundyaki. I thought we had a very good game. Again, we know what Bundyaki brings to the table, that crash ball, first man, straight in. But generally all around the park, I thought he had a good work rate. I thought he was playing very, very well, and I can absolutely imagine a lot of people going for Bundyaki. But for me, the one I'm going to pick out, which I don't think a lot of people will call, I'm going to go for Tui Pelotu from Scotland. I thought he had a really good game. I know if you look on like all the fantasy leagues and stuff, he didn't score that well, but I thought generally his impact on the game was quite massive. At times during that Wales-Scotland game, the ability just to make meters got really tough. The Wales defence improved greatly from last week. And Tui Pelotu was one of the few players that I saw actually breaking through tackles and making room and making clean breaks. And I really think that helped put Wales on the back foot in a lot of different areas. And I think he just played really well overall, especially I think it might have been his first start for Scotland as well. So again, very, very impressive for me. So I'm going for Tui Pelotu. In the outside centre then, I've got one name. I've got one name written down, which was quite surprising for me, and it goes to Owen Watkin, who, again, as I said in the first week when I saw Josh Adams in there, I said, why is Owen Watkin not taking this 13 shirt? He's playing so well at club level recently. I couldn't wait to see him back in a Wales shirt and being able to put it on the international scene. And to me, he did it. I think he did everything I wanted him to do. Came on, ran that defence so well from that 13 shirt, had a really superb game, making absolute desperate tackles that needed to be made, last man tackles. The only ding for me on his record was a pretty awful kick that he had, I can't remember, about halfway through the game. He had a really awful kick that just went into touch. Don't know what that was about. He was really angry with himself. But for me, that was the only blemish on his marker. He's keeping Jonathan Davis on the bench in that 13 shirt, and I think it's warranted. Jonathan Davis came on. A lot of people very happy to see Jonathan Davis come on. I would have preferred Owen Watkin stayed on for the full 80, to be honest. So for me, I'm going to go for Owen Watkin. On to the right wing. I got three names written down here, and I've got a feeling this will be the one people get angry at me for. There's always one position people don't like me picking. So I wrote three names down. First one, Damien Pinot. Thought he had a relatively decent game. Didn't get his hands on the ball as much as I wanted to see. Didn't get to see as many clean line breaks, so that's why I haven't gone from him. Second runner-up was Darcy Graham, who I was so close to picking. I thought he had a really good game against Wales. I thought some of the impacts he made, just getting round on the wing, just making that bit of extra room, just adding that danger element to the team, is a really nice dimension from him to see. I think he's really doing well on that Scotland wing for them. But for me, the one I'm going to be picking, because I very rarely get to do this in a team of the week, it's going to go to Italy. I'm going to go for Federico Mori, who I thought had a brilliant game for Italy. I know the scoreline for Italy wasn't that good, but we don't take that into consideration in these team of the weeks. It's not about who won or who lost. I think Federico Mori was having an exceptional game. He was all over the park. Some of the chasing after kicks, running the whole length of the field to chase down the kicks that had gone. Defensive work from him was good. The tackle rate was good. Just aggressive play. Some of the running lines that he had with the ball in hand. He was one of Italy's very few key attackers. He did come off in like the 65th 85th minute, and I don't know why. I think he was having a fantastic game. I would have left him on for the full 80. I can see a lot of people going for some very different picks. I think maybe a lot of people go for Darcy Graham here. But for me, I'm going to go for Federico Mori. And finally, in that full-back position, 3 names for me here. I had Hugo Keenan written down, who I thought actually a very good game in terms of just covering that backfield. There were a couple of occasions, though, where he did sort of start a counter-attack and just sort of ran into the defensive wall, which I'm not really sure what that was about. There was a good couple of occasions I saw him do that. Rather than trying to find the room, just ran at a defender. Well, we know he's so good at finding the space, but he certainly had a good couple of runs when he moved more towards the wing. So that's why Keenan got written down for me. I also had Jaminet written down. Again, just in terms of sealing out a game, Jaminet's kicking percentage is so good, and it led to so much in that game. Just getting those extra points, just getting that kick at the post. You see why he's on that way over 90% kicking ratio now. I think he's so good. But for me, I'm going to go for Liam Williams, who I think had a bit of an instrumental part in being able to beat that Scotland team at home. Some fantastic catches under the high ball, managing to hold that defence up. Good positional play in that backfield, stopping a lot of the kicks. We know Scotland love their kicks. Ali Price, Stuart Hogg, Finn Russell, all these people trying to find room in that backfield. I thought Liam Williams did a really good job of holding it up, as well as his own kicks, finding room, the up and unders, the challenges in the up and unders. That amazing 50-22, that I'm not 100% sure was planned, but absolutely I thought was a very, very good kick. So for me, I'm going to go for Liam Williams in that fullback shirt. And there we have it, guys. That is going to be my team of the week for round 2. Like I say, this is, of course, a very personal team of the week. This isn't based off the stats or the facts or who was best here, there, and everywhere. This is just people that impressed me. So I've no doubt you guys will have totally different players. So feel free to drop down in the comment section your players. Who made your 1 to 15? Who was your team of the week? Because I really do enjoy reading through them just to see everyone's different thoughts and opinions on different players and just generally who impressed you for whatever reason. I know a lot of people have different reasons why they pick different players. And with that out of the way, we of course need to talk about the fantasy, which went all sorts of different directions this week. So starting off, let's start off talking about the fantasy first rather than the predictor. So after the first 2 games of the fantasy this week, for anyone who keeps track of this quite heavily like I do, I'll put an image on screen for you guys now. This was the score after the first 2 games this week. This was after there was only 1 game left, and as you can see, there's me dead set in last. Wilfred Rice not picking a team, but there's me down in last position on 41.5 points after 2 games. I'd lost nearly the entire team. The only players I had left were the England players that I had in my team. And now we'll put on screen for you guys the final score for round 2, and somehow I made it all the way back to the top. The England players coming absolutely to my safety. As a proud Welshman, someone who enjoys rugby, I don't think I've ever cheered for England harder than this week in terms of the fantasy, just in order for teams to actually do well. So we've got me up there on 189.5. Sufton Rugby on 186, Bowie on 175, Teutcher on 174, and then we sort of get into the 160s. I can't believe I made that comeback. I thought I was in desperate trouble. So in terms of the overall leaderboards for this tournament, then we see me retain my top spot after 2 weeks on 385. Sufton Rugby making a huge leap, going up 5 places now into second place on 363. Bowie there on 361. Teutcher 355. Mattarello dropping a couple of places down to 353. And Dan Can't Ruck all the way down there in 6th. On 242, and it's slowly beginning to get more spread out now. The teams this week, very, very hard to pick some of these Super Brew players. So many players who should have done really well, just not absolutely doing anything. Some of them that I wasn't expecting to get some scores very well, absolutely flew. Jaminet and Dupont especially really took off this round, which I was not expecting. I expected the Irish defence to be able to hold up. Speaking of which, we need to talk about the Predictor, which, boy oh boy, did it go wrong for me this week. This is what we say every year with the predictors. It can go wrong as soon as you get one thing. As I did in the preview videos, I picked France and Scotland to win. And then about, I don't know, an hour before the first game kicked off, I decided to change my mind. And I swapped to Ireland. I don't know why. I should have stuck with my original thought. Of course, France going on to win that game. So at the end of this round, we'll check it on the screen for you guys. You won't even see me on the board. I am so low down. I am nowhere. I'm not on this. But WRU 14 on 6.75 with some awesome calls. Absolutely way out in front there. Lord Nicholas on 6.25. And then Dave Seri 2, that's hard to say, and Maddie all on 5 for this round. And then there's quite a big leap back to the rest of us, Sambuca, Bowie, then the rest of us all there on our 2.5s and 1.5s if you're with me. So this Predictor series getting real interesting just from one round of bad calls. So the final leaderboards after round 2, Camerafish up there now in that first position spot on 9.33. WRU 14 moves up 9 places to go to 9.25. A huge leap. That's what we like to see in the Predictor series. Lord Nicholas up 5 places on 9. Poxy drops down 2 on 8.08. I don't even know how you have a 0.08. But that's how it goes. And we can see me there all the way down in 9th, dropping 6 places, having a terrible round in the Predictor. So I might be struggling to retain anything in that Predictor. So I'm going to have to aim very hard now for the overall fantasy. But a massive thank you to everyone that does join in. I really enjoy doing the fantasy and the Predictor. And it does really help. I think a lot of people enjoy some of the games they might not have watched otherwise. If you support one team, maybe you wouldn't have been that interested in some of the other games, and I really think the fantasy helps a lot of people get more into rugby and join in a lot more and want to watch those other games and get excited when maybe the players on the team you don't want to win actually perform really well. I think that's a lot more fun. I'm so glad everyone's getting involved with the fantasy. There we have it, guys. That's going to be the end of the Team of the Week for round 2. Of course, we'll do one of these for every single week. We've got a week's break now. I'll have to think of some fun content to come up with over the rest of the Six Nations, especially with this week off. I'm going to be doing a lot more content, especially around the Six Nations and on Rugby 22 for all those games that I do with the previews where we play Rugby 22 in the background. If you enjoy your rugby gaming as well, make sure you subscribe to the channel just to keep up to date with all the latest videos as they come out. I hope you've all enjoyed this one, guys. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.